Hello, my name is Petra, and I design, direct, and develop Dawnsbury Days, the turn-based tactics RPG. And this video is about how you can create a code mod, so like a mod that adds a new feat, a new spell, a new ancestry class, monster, and so on into Dawnsbury Days. Now, there is a README file included with the game and on GitHub, and I'll link to it in the description. But in case you would like to see step by step what's actually going to happen when you're following the guide, I made this video. So there are two main ways in which you can create custom content for Dawnsbury Days. The first way is to create custom encounters and then custom adventures or adventure paths or campaigns. And to do that, you largely use the map editor, and then you write an XML file if you want to add cutscenes or to assemble the encounters into an adventure. I have another video on how to do that. I'll also link it in the description, and there's also a separate guide for that. In this video, we will focus on character content. So specifically in this video, first we'll go over prerequisites, then we'll create a hello world feat, then some other then some other more complex feats, and no, perfect. And finally, a spell or some spells, and then we'll see how you can publish this character content mod on the Steam workshop. All right, so let's begin with that. So you need two things installed for your computer to follow this video tutorial. One of them is you must have Dawnsbury Days installed on your computer, and the second one is you need a development environment that supports C# or another .NET language. The three biggest ones are Visual Studio, which I'll be using in this tutorial, JetBrains Rider, which is paid software, but it's extremely effective at its job, and has very generous trial policy, so you can easily use that as well, and Visual Studio Code, which I will not be using today. So let's begin. Our first objective will be nope. Actually, sure. Let's set up our agenda here. So, first we already went over the prerequisites. So first we'll try to create a Hello World mod. Then we'll create some additional feat mods. Then we'll create some spell mods. And then we'll see about publishing on the Steam workshop. All right, now let's think about our mod first. And for your first sort of thing, for your first mod in Dawnsbury Days, I would just recommend doing the bare minimum to see that your mod is loaded and that you are integrated with the game correctly. Because once you get past this first hurdle, then everything will be so much easier. So our first mod will be adding just one feat. It will be Impossible Toughness. It will be a level 1 fighter feat, and it will be you have 2000 extra HP. Very simple. All right, let's do it. To actually do this, we will follow this. README file on the GitHub with example mods. I'll also link to it. And so let's go step by step. Create a .NET class library project. So we open Visual Studio. We create a new project. It will not look so malformed on your computer. I just have all the fonts increased in size, so it's easier to follow in video form. Now we want to create a class library. Yes. And in our case, we will name it Dawnsbury mod demo, and let's say some interesting feats and spells. That's a good name for a mod. And let's go. And the guide says to use .NET 8 specifically for Windows. I don't see that option here. It's probably not super necessary, so let's just create it like this. All right, so we have Visual Studio open. And next up, let's see about what we do next. Set a platform time related to x64. We can't do that easily. It probably won't be necessary, so let's skip this step for now. Reference the following assemblies from your installation folder as assembly references of your project. Now this we have to do so that we can use Dawnsbury Days code in our project. So to locate the installation folder, we'll go to Steam. You will search for Dawnsbury Days, and you'll go to Properties, Installed Files, and find with Browse where is it installed on your computer. And here we go. So it's here. And the README asks for these three files, so that's what we will add as references. Let's browse in this folder, and we have data, and we wanted Dawnsbury Days DLL, common DLL, and the final one was monogame framework, like this. Add. Okay. We can check that all three have been added, and they were. And then let's follow to step 4. In any one class in your project, add public static method annotated with Dawnsbury mod main method attribute. All right, let's do that. We'll go public static void, enter the mod, and we'll annotate it with the attribute. What's the problem? Simplify name, sure. Next. Is only supported on Windows 7.0 or later. Okay, so the issue, so we get a warning. Okay, so we'll add the Windows modifier here to get rid of that warning. All right, and now we can also rename our class to something better, and we will call this our Some Interesting Feats and Spells mod. Good. And let's see, and now add any code you want your mod to execute on startup into that method. And then we can, all right. So let's do that now. Now our mod was impossible toughness. So, so now you can do what you want to Dawnsbury Days here, and most of the things you want are contained in this class mod manager that I loaded into this solution by referencing the Dawnsbury Days DLL assembly. If you look into mod manager like this, you'll see it has a bunch of classes. Most of them are called register. There are some other ones, and they allow you to modify various aspects of Dawnsbury Days. For now, we'll be using just the add feat method, which adds an extra feat. All right, so we'll add a feat, and first we'll need to supply a feat name, and the correct way to do that now is to register a feat name. Now, a feat name is an enum, which we'll get to later probably when we get to conflicts if needed. So for now, we just need to get a feat name, so we'll do it like this. We'll call it impossible toughness, and display name is the name actually displayed to the player, and so there we'll use it with a space, and we'll call it like this, flavor text. You are so strong that it is impossible to kill you. Bam. Rules text, you have 20,000 extra HP. Traits. Now, traits are sort of the little rectangles at the top of feats that you can add to feats, spells, creatures, and all manner of things. Dawnsbury Days has a lot of traits. In this case, the only one we really need is the class for which we are adding the feat, so the game knows what class the class feat is for, and just the fact that it's a class feat. And we'll add it to the fighter. And I already noticed the mistake I made. So this is what happens when you do live coding. And the problem is that when you create, in Dawnsbury Days, everything is a feat. Even things that aren't feats in the tabletop game are often feats in Dawnsbury Days. In Dawnsbury Days, a feat is like a choice or an ability that a character has. So your ancestry is a feat, your background is a feat, your subclass a feat, heritage a feat. Just your choice of a dragon for a kobold's draconic ancestor is a feat. And the way we distinguish like real feats that are actually feats in tabletop is by using the type true feat. And here we'll see that we also need to supply a level, and we'll make it a level 1 feat. Now we added our feat, and so we can save and build our project. Build started, build succeeded, and proceed with the guide, which says, put the output assembly DLL file into the custom mods folder in the installation folder, then start Dawnsbury Days. So we'll do just that. Let's see first where our file is. So we'll open the folder with our mod, open the output folder. We are now a .NET 8 Windows mod, so we'll go over here, and here is our DLL file. So we will copy it, and I still have my installation folder open, and here we have custom mods, and I'll paste it here. Which means that now, if I start Dawnsbury Days, I should be able to see my mod. Let's see what happens. Yeah. I created a character for the purpose of testing our mod. I just created it by duplicating the basic fighter and renaming it and giving it a new illustration. All right. Now let's see at our feed, and indeed we have our new feed here. You'll notice that the mod trait has been added to the feed automatically. That happens for all feeds added by mods to distinguish them. And it has our flavor text and our rules text, and it has the name that we specified as the display name. The technical name that we specified earlier in the game, this one, is also important. That's the name that's being actually saved into the save file and into your character library when you save a character with this feat. It's important so that when the game reloads, it will find the same feat and attach it to you. And the reason this feat name matters is that if there are multiple mods, each feat given by each mod must have a different name, or else they will conflict. So one thing you may want to do is, instead of naming the feat like Impossible Toughness, you could name it something like I would name it Dawnsbury Studios. Impossible Toughness maybe, to like distinguish it and make sure that the name really is specific for what I'm doing and that other mods will not interfere with it. Anyway, you'll notice that my health is still low. Let's go to level 1. And my health is 24, not to 20,024. That makes sense. We didn't actually implement any functionality for the feat. Let's do that now. So we have the feat, and Dawnsbury Days largely uses a fluent system where if you have a feat or a spell, you have these with methods with which you can add functionality to it. In our case, we want with on creature. And here we add a lambda function, and I probably won't explain the functionality of how C# works. That would be beyond the scope of this video. But with on creature means that this code here is applied to the creature that this character becomes when a stat block is constructed from it. And all we need to do here really um, is to add the 20,000 extra max HP, build the project, copy it into the custom mods folder, and run the game again. Nope, here. Now notice that I in the end didn't change the technical name of the feat, which means that our fighter should still have our feat, but now it's working and our fighter has 20,024 HP. And voila, this would be, and now you're set up. Now you have a Hello World mod, which adds a Hello World feat, and it works and you can see it in the game. And at this point, it might be a good idea to figure out what you actually want to add as character options into Dawnsbury Days. Because at this point, you can actually start programming functionality. You're integrated. And so that's what we will do. Let's first start off easy and create a new simple mod. This time we'll call it Impossible Perception, another level 1 fighter feat, which will say you have plus 20,000 to perception. Why not? And so this way we will always win initiative. Great. Now, before we actually implement this feat, we'll set up a little automation here, which will make stuff easier for us. You'll notice that there's a Dawnsbury mod targets files here, which contain some useful stuff that we could use, and specifically the one I'm interested in is this copy to games mod folder, which I will place into, can I open the project file here? What this line does, after I remove this, is that each time we build our project, it will copy the resultant mod file into a folder of our choice. And the choice we will do is that we want it copied right here. Into the Dawnsbury Days custom mods folder, and now we will just need to rebuild and then relaunch Dawnsbury Days, and it should just work. We don't need to copy after every source modification. All right, so this one was our first feat, Impossible Toughness. Let's go for the second one, Impossible Perception. We'll be adding a new true feat. Again, we have a true feat because it's an actual feat, in our case, a class feat. We'll register a new feat name, which will be Impossible Perception. Level 1 still. And you look around so much that nobody can surprise you. You have plus 20,000 to perception. It's another fighter feat, and we'll have to put it as a trait. And now what? Maybe we can do the same thing because perception is also a number that we can simply increase. And we'll build, succeeded. So now we will run Dawnsbury Days. And we'll see. Well, we now have impossible perception, and it looks like it works. Let's check out whether our mods indeed work in combat. Let's compare ourselves to some powerful creature at level 4, like the Sea Serpent. Even though we are level 1, we should all win initiative, because we have 20,000 perception. And we did. And we are also unkillable. Now the Sea Serpent will try some powerful breath weapon on us, and it deals some damage, but we absolutely do not care with our super health. Perfect. Alright, and with that we already have 2 mods in. Now let's actually make some useful mod which you could reasonably brew into the game. We'll call it healing attacks. It will be again a level 1 fighter feat. And it will have the rules text that whenever you hit an enemy with a strike, you also heal HP equal to your level. Now, normally in the tabletop game, whenever you have the ability to heal, there is something about that ability which limits you to doing it only once per 10 minutes. So possibly something like this would have a clause that you can only do this once per encounter or along those lines. We won't bother with that for now. One of the things when you're creating feats and mods for Dawnsbury Days, often you'll want to you like something in the tabletop rules, so you want to bring it into Dawnsbury Days, so you sort of want to try to stay as faithful to the source material as you can. But it is good to remember that you're not actually forced to, your mod will not stop working just because you changed how a little thing works so that it's easier to implement. So it's completely fine. All right, let's go create our mod, healing attacks. We'll again create it as a feat. And we'll call it healing attacks, yes. And the level will still be 1. The flavor text will be you're reinvigorated a little bit each time you strike a foe. Sure. And we'll copy paste our rules text that we've already written. Again, we have a fighter feat. This one would probably benefit also from the healing trait, although it doesn't do anything on feats as such. Now, and now we have multiple options on how we proceed. The easiest or the basic approach would be to use wit on creature and add the ability. So let's start with that. We'll have our code. Now, how do you implement something like whenever you hit an enemy with a strike? So generally, our first 2 mods just modified statistics of the creature. But pretty much every ability, whether static ability or triggered ability or activated ability, to borrow card game terminology, is implemented as a QEffect in Dawnsbury Days. So what you're going to want to do is you will add a new QEffect to the creature. And we don't want to put namespaces before everything. We'll just import it. And we'll use this one, which is for a permanent Q effect, and we'll call it healing attacks. And we'll copy paste our description again. And so here we create a new permanent Q effect for this creature that will last for the rest of the encounter, and that currently does nothing. But Q effects have an extreme long list of different properties which represent the abilities that they can have. Now you can go into a Q effect and you can look at all of these options, and pretty much all of them pretty much all of them have documentation on what they mean. So for example, this property, this event triggers when the creature with the Q effect is dealt lethal damage. This one when it's dealt any damage. This one causes its spell damage rolls to increase by 1 die step, and so on. In our case, I know that the event that I'm interested in is after you take action. No, is it? I could also choose after you take damage. I'll choose after you take action. Now, will I get automatic guidance here? No, this is where using JetBrains Rider would be easier. Here we'll have to... This happens after you take combat action. Yes. Q effect action. Okay. What's our problem here? Lacks await operators. That's fine. In fact, that's why I recommend that this warning CS1998 is disabled. Let's go disable it. No war. 1998. All right. So this happens after we take any action, but we only want to react if the action is a strike, and if it successfully hit an enemy, which means that its check result is at least a success. And in that case, what we want to do is we want to heal. So the owner of the Q effect, which is us, will heal equal to our level. And so to get our level, we'll get our level, convert it to a string so that it's like a dice formula, and it's our strike which healed us. And with this, we have our feat. Now, I didn't explain how you're supposed to know all of this. There is a little bit of this explained in the README file, and there is some of this described in the example mods. And you can have a look at those, and you probably should when you're doing more advanced modding. But in the end, I created a bunch of properties and triggers, and you can't know how everything is named and what you're supposed to put anywhere. So in some cases, Visual Studio will do stuff for you. JetBrains Rider, the IDE I use for development, will give you even more advice and auto-completion. But the main approach that you will probably want to take is to find an existing feat or spell that does the thing that you're interested in, copy the code from there, and modify it. In our case, I would have to find some feat which does something when you hit an enemy with a strike, see how that's done. Then I would find some feat or spell which heals, see how that's done, merge them together, and create a new feat. For now, I just made use of my knowledge. Bear with me on this. And let's check it out. See if our healing attacks work. Alright, let's give ourselves healing attacks, and you will see we now have the ability here. Let's take some more appropriate encounter, like this one. We'll first need to wait until we are damaged a little bit, so we see that our healing will do something. Alright. You can barely see the damage because of how much health we have, but that's fine. Alright, now we have a damaged character, so let's try... Okay, so we didn't hit. Okay, poor demonstration. This one isn't damaged, this one isn't damaged, this one is. Okay, and we see +1, and we healed 1 health, and that's exactly our level. So, with this, our mod is working. Can you even see that it comes from the strike, because we added that as an argument to the healing method. Alright, great. For the next mod, I will no longer be using my knowledge as somebody who has worked with Dawnsbury Days for over a year. But let's now see how you would do something if you don't have that experience and need to copy-paste from some existing feat. And what we'll want to do here as our 4th feat to implement, and it will actually be 4th to 6th, we'll call it 4th, is implement the 1st edition feats Iron Will, Great Fortitude, and Lightning Reflexes. We'll say that all of them are again level 1 fighter feats because, you know, fighters should have better defenses, I think. I mean, they're not a particularly strong class, so, you know. And we'll say that each of them gives you have a +2 bonus to your will saving throw. And the same thing could be to all the other saves. Now, when you want to implement a feat like this, now you need to search for a feat which does something very similar or the same as your feat, and that's also implemented in Dawnsbury Days. Now, this is not normally something which the tabletop game does, so it may be a little bit tricky in this case. Untyped bonuses like this are very rare, and the way you normally increase your saving throws is via increase in proficiency, which is not exactly what we want to do here. Instead, we would like to find some feat or spell which gives you, say, a circumstance or status bonus to some of these saving throws, because that's kind of like what we're doing, except we don't want it to be a circumstance or status bonus. And so one of them is spell resistance. Spell resistance gives you a +1 status bonus to your saving throws against spells. Possibly that's something that could inspire us when writing this feat. So that's something we can try to search for. All right. So let's try implementing Iron Will. No, we'll want to add feat. And we'll register Iron Will. Level 1. You're indomitable. You have a +2 bonus to will saving throws. And again, will be a fighter feat. Perfect. Now, how do we actually make this work? At this point, we'll need to search. We'll need to search Dawnsbury Days itself. Now, Visual Studio has this Explorer where you can, and I think I can filter for the specific assembly I'm interested in. Can I filter it? Uh, .NET, and I want to filter for component name Dawnsbury Days. It's not in here. No. No filter here. My solution. Sure. All right. Now, somewhere in here, we'll have spell resistance. One option in how you can do this is that there is a decompiler called .peak, which you can download from JetBrains and which you can apply on the Dawnsbury Days assembly and sort of recreate the C# code. You can open that code in a separate instance of Visual Studio and read in there. Long term, that's possibly a good approach. Another good approach is to use JetBrains Rider, the IDE I use, because it will allow you to search somewhat easily as well. And also I'm not that familiar with Visual Studio, but let's see. Let's try to search for spell resistance. And yeah, we found a couple, including something which appears to be called cantrip spell resistance. Let's see if we can find where this feat name is used. We'll want also external. Let's see, entire solution and external sources. No references found. That's not great because they exist. Which really means that that I can't search for the point of use easily in Visual Studio. That's a little bit of a problem for searchability. Well, in that case, eventually you will want to either use the JetBrains Rider or .peak approach to have more searchable code. Until then, let's see our other point that we can bounce ourselves off of, and that's this QEffect spell resistance, which gives a +1 status bonus to all saves versus magic. And here we see that it's a QEffect which uses the property bonus to defenses. Brilliant. So we'll copy this, and let's see what we can do. Now, one of the things I could again do with on creature, but I also know that there is a simplified way to write this, which is to type with permanent QEffect, which does the same thing as above, except we don't need to write some of this boilerplate code. And so we'll say that the feat gives you a +2 bonus to will saving throws. And here we'll paste the code we copied from spell resistance. All right, let's see what it does. We'll import these types. Now, Let's see what we're actually doing. Returns a bonus or penalty that applies to your defense against combat action nullable. Now, in QEffect descriptions of triggers, the capitalized terms in the description refer to the arguments, and they are in order of the argument, normally, not in this case. Unfortunate, bad example, but that helps you identify what each argument of the trigger means. In our case, we just want a blanket bonus to all will saving throws, so we can scrap this condition. Actually, no, we can't. We have to check for the proper defense, because we only want to add it to will. We'll want it to be a +2 bonus coming from the feat iron will, and the bonus type will be untyped. Save, build started, build succeeded. Let's check it out. All right. Now we have a will save of +4. Let's see what happens if we take our new iron will feat. We now have a will save of +6. Now, is there an enemy who immediately targets will saves? The Tiefling Adept casts Color Spray, but first casts Acid Arrow, which doesn't force a will save. Maybe we can see it on the Dragon's Frightful Aura, the Sea Serpent's Frightful Aura. Perfect, here we go, and you'll see that our Iron Whale is taken into account here in the saving throw breakdown. Perfect. All right. So, and we could do Great Fortitude and Lightning Reflexes similarly. All right. Now with this, you're already well equipped to continue on your own with adding additional feats. With the strategy of looking at a similar feat, taking what you need from it, and putting it into yours, or starting from the documentation on GitHub or from the example mods, depending on the way you prefer to work or learn. Let's now continue to spells. So as our fifth action, we would like to implement, and this will be a little bit of an adventure. I've never done this before. Let's see if this actually works. We'll want to implement the spell Cataclysm. Now, for creating new spells, we have the method register new spell, and let's see what it wants from us. The technical spell name will be Cataclysm. Minimum spell level is 10, and now we never added, I never added a level 10 spell to the game. Not sure if it actually works. Let's see. Lambda expression. No, that's not what we wanted. So we'll want a spell ID, creature, level, in combat, spell information, and we'll want to return a spell. Now, again, the reason why I know how this is done is that I've done this many times before, but creating a new spell in particular, there are examples on how to do this on the GitHub. All right. Now, let's not worry about an illustration for now. We can do that a little bit later. For now, let's just put the illustration of the fireball. Why not? Illustration, fireball doesn't exist. Uh, I would very much expect the fireball to exist. I mean, let's go with Flaming Sphere then. Yeah, I think the spell Flaming Sphere and Fireball may still be sharing the same illustration in this version of Dawnsbury Days. Alright, let's call it Cataclysm. And as for the rest, um, we can take our text from the tabletop rules. So, what do we want now? Traits, acid, air, cold, concentrate, earth, electricity, fire, manipulate, water. You don't actually need to put the concentrate and manipulate traits onto the spell because they will be added automatically if the spell costs at least 2 actions. But why not? Okay, what do we want to add now? Flavor text, right? Yes. Water. Flavor text. Let's copy from the source. Perfect. And now the rules text, and this will do a simplified version, but you can imagine how but over time you can improve the spell to be more faithful to tabletop with some of the special things. We'll just say that you deal 3d6 acid damage, 3d10 bludgeoning damage. Let's go 3d10 acid damage, 3d10 cold damage, 3d10 electricity damage, 3d10 bludgeoning damage, and that's either done to the creatures on the ground with the earthquake or the creatures in the sky with the winds. Overall, it's just 3d10 bludgeoning damage, and an additional 3d10 bludgeoning damage, which is the same, so we'll just put it at 6d10, and a 3d10 fire damage. And we'll say basic reflex save mitigates all. Perfect. Target determines who are possible targets of this spell. In our case, we have a burst. In Dawnsbury Days, ranges, radii, and other distances are counted in squares, not feet, and 1 square is 5 feet, but we don't actually need to calculate it. We know the range is 1000 feet. We'll do 1000 feet divided by 5, and the radius is a 60-foot burst. We'll do 60 divided by 5. Spell level is based on what we get on input, and saving throw. Spell saving throw is a basic reflex save. Now this is the basic metadata that you need, and spells by default cost 2 actions, so that's fine, but what we'll want to do is we'll want to add a sound effect, and I'll just use the fireball sound effect. Again, we could add an extra sound effect, and you can and the guides show how to do that, specifically the acidic burst mod, but for now we'll just use an existing one. And now the effect, and with effect on each target is it's the most common way that you will determine what a spell affects. It's so common that I should remember its arguments in my head, and I do. And so what we'll be doing is that we'll do damage. Again, you can find this example in the documentation, and you can look for similar spells like Fireball, but I already know what I want to do, so I'll implement the spell like this. And here, normally, we could just say 3d10 fire damage. And like you could do something like this and just change the damage kind each time. And that would be sort of correct. And in fact, maybe in this case, it is actually correct. If you do it this time, like 5 different times, it will count as 5 different instances of damage. So, but I think in this case, it may actually count as 5 different instances of damage rather than a single one. But who knows? Not that much of a rules expert on the Cataclysm spell. So we have this. Now, of course, if we actually run the game now, we won't be able to test Cataclysm because it's a level 10 spell, and we don't have a level 10 spell slot. But we can do something about that. We can add, say, a feat which will, and this time let's add a sorcerer feat, register feat name, and we'll go level 10 spell slot. We'll call it level 10 spell slots. Prosaic names are the best. It's a level 1 feat, and it says you are really powerful, and you gain a level 10 spell slot, and you learn a level 10 spell. Perfect. So it's sort of like the, yeah, actually there is no equivalent feat for this. Anyways, and we'll put it as a sorcerer feat. Now, how do we figure out how to implement this? We'll use the approach of looking at something that already exists. Now, in this case, we don't, in this case, we'll want to look at the class definition itself. Again, classes are feats, ancestries are feats, almost everything is feats in Dawnsbury Days. And so let's go find our sorcerer. And here we'll look at where we are adding spells. And here we see, this is our class selection feat. And here we are adding a bloodline, and I know that we only get spells after we get a bloodline. So here we actually see how we are getting our spells. So the first thing we want to do is increase our spell slots. So we'll copy this piece of code, and we'll copy it into on sheet. Okay, so that's a new option that we have, because this time we are not affecting the end stat block. This time we are actually affecting character creation. In Dawnsbury Days, you have a character which is represented by the character sheet class, and then a creature which is represented by the creature class, and that's like the stat block. In our case, we are affecting character creation, so we have to affect the sheet. And okay, we don't have access to the repertoire. Let's see what the repertoire is. And the repertoire is our sorcerer repertoire. So let's choose that one. And we'll say that our spell slots for the 10th level gain an additional spell slot. Great. Now we have a 10th level spell slot, which is great, but we still need to learn the Cataclysm spell so we can cast it from that spell slot. And so what we'll do is we'll find how we can add a new spell choice. And this looks like a spell choice on how to add a single level 1 spell. And this would be how to add a single level 2 spell. So let's copy this one. And we'll call, and so this is also a new thing. This way, add selection option is a way on how you can add sort of an extra choice that the player has to do when making a character. And we'll say that this feat adds a new choice called Sorcerer Mega Spell, which adds a level 10 spell. And it happens at which level. In our case, we'll use the special value -1, which means do this immediately at the same level where you took the feat. It's a sorcerer, sure, we'll put it at the arcane spell list, regardless of what the sorcerer's actual bloodline is. And will you add a level 10 spell. This reminds me that I forgot to add a couple more traits here. In Dawnsbury Days, the spell traditions are also trait. Dawnsbury Days, everything is a feat. If it's not a feat, it's a trait, probably. If it's not either, it's probably an action or a QEffect. So I guess there's a bunch of things it could be. Anyways, so now we actually made Cataclysm an arcane spell. Now we can add it. Let's see if this works. Again, didn't build this before. Who knows? We'll see. Build succeeded at least. Now let's see what actually happens. Alright. Now we'll copy our sorcerer. And we'll call it mod sorcerer. And let's see about our level 2 feat. And our level 10 spell slot. Do we have it? I don't see it. Maybe it's because we don't know any level 10 spells. Alright, we could upcast like Grim Tendrils for 20d for negative damage, and that sounds cool, but we are here for the Cataclysm. Perfect, and now we have one level 10 slot with the Cataclysm. And we'll just need to add a couple more spells to complete this, sure. Perfect, let's add our mod sorcerer twice, get ourselves some difficult encounter, yeah, like the sea serpent, why not? Alright. And I forgot that we added it at level 2, not at level 1. So, okay, we'll need to level up our fighter to level 2. Okay. Oh, we have our level 10 feat. Now, unfortunately, it still might not actually do anything because we are low level, we are just level 2. And this is a basic reflex save. The serpent might just save critically, but let's see. Well, something happened. It didn't kill him. I mean, yeah, he saved to all of the stuff, sure. I don't know. I guess I kind of expected a little bit more from a level 10 spell used like 15 levels before it's supposed to be available. Sure, the area's kind of big, but well, the spell works, so we accomplished our mission there. Perfect. All right. Yeah, and so this is pretty much how you would continue with your further feat. That leaves us with with two more things, licensing and publishing. Now, most of the stuff here is fully owned by me. I invented impossible toughness. I invented impossible perception. Um, I invented healing attacks, although I did use some terminology, specifically a strike from the base game. But Iron Whale comes from the original OGL game, and Cataclysm comes from the tabletop rule set as well. So and I even you may remember directly copy pasted the flavor text from the tabletop rules. So I don't own this text. So to publish this as a mod, I have to add a copyright notice to comply with the license that I'm using to use this content. Now, some parts of the tabletop rule set are distributed under the OGL license, some under the Orc license, and both licenses are to some extent viral, so your single mod, a single work, cannot contain stuff from both the OGL part of the tabletop game or from the OGL universe and the Orc universe. So you have to pick one, and all your mod must stay within that universe. In our case, everything we want is in the OGL universe, so we'll use the OGL, and the simple way to do that is to use one of these example notices that I have on the GitHub. Again, I will link this, and we will add and we will put our notice here. Okay, we'll just create it. We'll copyright notice HTML. We'll edit the source code, put stuff here, and there are some things that we have to change. Our mod is called some interesting feats and spells, and we are using the core rulebook and the original system reference document, yes, but we are not actually using any other rule books, so we can just delete this one. And our mod again is called some interesting feats and spells, and I created it today. Okay, now we can view our copyright notice, and here we go. Functioning OGL copyright notice. So we have that, and next what we have to do is what we want to do is publish it to the Steam Workshop. So what we'll do is we'll copy these two files, which are the only files we actually need. We'll create a staging area for Steam Workshop. We'll put mod content here. And all right, let's start like this. And with regards uploading to the Steam Workshop, the proper way is with the Dawnsbury Days Workshop uploader, and there's a guide here which tells you what to do. And in our case, what to do, I already read the file, of course, is to create a custom mods folder, put the DLL file inside it, keep the copyright notice outside, run the workshop uploader. We'll want to create a new mod. We'll call it some interesting feats and spells. We'll load our mod content, as the folder, and we see that the mod contains a code mod and a license file. That's exactly what we want. We'll call it initial release. I'll put it as unlisted so that it doesn't actually appear, because it's not like a real mod that people should be playing with. It's just some random experiments that I did. I can't quite submit yet because I don't have a preview image. Actually, I wonder if I can submit without a preview image. Interesting. Let's see what happens. Successfully uploaded. Well, interesting. Let's see. Let's check the workshop from here. It probably won't appear here because we set it as unlisted. But if we... Can I... can I switch to a mod of my choice by altering this link? I'm not sure that I can. Can I look at my content? Your file. Files you've posted. Ah, here we go. Some interesting feats and spells. I see. So we don't have a preview image, but we don't need that. Let's subscribe. Starting download. Great, done. Now, the problem is that we already have the mod. So if we would start the game now we have it twice. So what I'll first do is I will delete our mod from the custom mods folder. So now we should have only the mod that was downloaded from the Steam Workshop. And indeed, you see that now that it's downloaded from the Steam Workshop, we can actually see it in the list of mods in the game. It will be located in some random Steam Workshop folder, that's fine. And people can view the license notice if they want, so that's perfect. And if we go to our characters, we can see that they can still use our modded spells. Now, just out of curiosity, a final thing before we end the video, I do wonder how whether some of the heightened stuff might be better than Cataclysm. Let's see what heightens well here. Burning Hands. That's usually given as an example of a weak spell. But let's see. Level 10 Burning Hands. How does it work against the Serpent? Nope. Alright. Move over here. Cast a level 10 Burning Hands. Okay, I did not... Yeah, there was no way to hit all three of them. Well, that's a pretty poor result as well. 35 damage. A fighter, a kineticist can do this at level 1. I mean, we're level 2, so not that much better. Still, heightening, not as great as I thought it would be. We probably need that spell save DC up as well. Oh well. Anyway, our mod is working. Alright, that is the end of this video on the basics of creating code mods in Dawnsbury Days. We created some 4 feats, a spell, some changes to character creation, and we gave our mod a license and uploaded it to the Steam Workshop. Of course, this wasn't some of the more complex mods, some of the more complex feats or spells to implement. We just added sort of somewhat simple spells and feats. But that's where you can start, and then as you learn more and more, you can add more complex character options into Dawnsbury Days. All right. Thanks for your attention and see you soon.